So first, AOC decided to go over to that same Munich conference where J.D. Vance just tore up the place last year in stellar fashion. And then Marco Rubio was excellent this past weekend in his messaging. And AOC actually had the delusion that she could hang with those guys and make an appearance to show them what happens when a progressive comes to town. By now, you've seen the soundbite. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to show you what J.D. Vance just said in response. Watch her first.
To all of you, and Congressman, I'll start with you, would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
It was a hot mess. It was a disaster. She humiliated herself and proved that she's not ready for the international stage at all. She would have been better off doing the Gretchen Whitmer, like, gee, as a governor, I don't know anything. Like, gee, I'm just a U.S. House member. I was a bartender a few years ago. I'll get to this international stuff when I run for president, which I'm not doing now. She humiliated herself. Humiliated womankind, if we're being honest. She did. And Whitmer was a nightmare too. Then it turned out that she had been training and preparing for this conference for 3 months, as reported in Politico. She had an advisor, some top Politico guy, who had been advising her for 3 months. Not Politico as in from the magazine, but some political operative. And that's the best she could do. I mean, this is wonderful because, she's like the great Hispanic hope of most of the left over the next few years. They really think this woman has a shot at becoming president because she is kind of cute and does social media well. Okay. All right. We'll see how that goes. Great. There's also a poll out right now showing that Kamala Harris is polling better than J.D. Vance. Terrific. You should totally go with that and believe in every point. Yes, you're right. She can totally beat J.D. Vance. I agree. Run her. Do the responsible thing. Run her. Go for it. Run Kamala. Run AOC. Run Gretchen Whitmer. We'll see how that goes. Here is JD at President Trump's Board of Peace kickoff meeting this morning. He spoke and had a bunch of world leaders there talking about how Trump has helped them reach peace, like Pakistan and India. And JD had this to say.
President, very much for your leadership, but also for the kind words about me personally. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but then after the president said that I was so smart and that I didn't want to repeat our congresswoman who froze for 20 seconds over in Munich, now I'm tempted, sir, just to freeze for 20 seconds and just stare at the cameras, and maybe they'll say nice things about me like they do about Congresswoman Cortez.
But no, they won't. As we all know, they will never write anything nice about JD. By the way, I meant to say that the poll was between Kamala and Trump, and it's showing Kamala beating Trump. Okay, that's imaginary because he's not running again. But in any event, if you consider, JD as a sub-in for Trump there and that she might be beating JD, let's go with that. I love it. Let's go with that, Kamala. You can do it, sister. Here was Trump at the Board of Peace presentation this morning on that same AOC moment, SOT 19.
You watch some of the people that were at the event in Munich. They didn't graduate quickly from college. They had everything they could do. There was one young, attractive woman. She was unable to answer questions. And she didn't do so well like JD did in college. AOC, she was unable to answer a simple question. And she could have said, well, I'm studying it and I'll report back to you next week. You can get away with that. But she just went, it's actually, I think it could be a career-ending answer because for 25 years, anybody running against her, I think Susie is going to use that little piece of stuff. It was not good.
It wasn't And honestly, don't underestimate Trump as an assessor of what's working and what isn't on camera. I mean, he's extremely good at that. He hosted the #1 show in America for some 10 years. I mean, it was insane. That's actually how Trump made a lot of his fortune later in life. He's obviously been a successful businessman, but he made boatloads of dough off of The Apprentice. And he's 100% right. She humiliated herself. And then she called the New York Times, her little stenographers over there, to try to completely recast what her mission was. And they just did it. They just wrote what she told them to, as true stenographers will. But it doesn't matter, because the people who saw that, all the independent voters who saw that, know in their bones she's not ready. And no amount of cleanup by the New York Times is going to change that. It's too late. I'm sorry. You humiliated yourself. It wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last. You're not ready. And the reason you're not ready is because you're actually not naturally smart. And so if you want to say anything resembling something smart, you're going to have to study. And apparently you need better teachers, because the one who was with you for 3 months couldn't get you to say the most basic answer on one of the most fundamental issues of our time, which is, what the hell are we going to do if the Chinese try to take Taiwan? Are we going to get involved, or aren't we? Of course, the country has had a policy of strategic ambiguity where we don't really say what we're going to do. And that's all she had to say. We don't really talk about that. We have a policy of strategic ambiguity. Next question. That's it. That's it. She didn't know the answer. She couldn't remember the prep. You could see the little eyeballs like funneling through information, and she's not familiar enough with, honestly, this very basic foreign policy. We don't do a ton of foreign policy on the show. We all know that one. She's just not that bright. So that's her, although she did get a lot in the media, not just the New York Times, to try to run cover for her. Here's the equally unlikable Abby Phillip from CNN the other night on her show, SOT 17.
MAGA is having a field day with this one. A flub for AOC, but the question is also, what happens when the president, the actual president of the United States, does very similar things on the world stage? So look, I'll give you that AOC probably should have been more ready for that question, but are we going to really pretend that the actual president of the United States has not made similar or perhaps worse flubs on the global stage?
Are we really going to pretend that you're the answer to CNN's need for fair and balanced coverage and new audience? Because you're failing. No one watches you. Your audience has been cut to below 400,000, which is a complete embarrassment. You ought to be fired. And your cocky, smug sense of self ought to be wiped away in one ratings period, because no one watches you. What does it say? That you're the most interesting thing on CNN and literally nobody's watching you. Okay. You don't have a long job trajectory, sweetheart. And when you eventually get fired, as your network implodes and try to go out into the independent lane, you will fail there too, because all you do is speak in a monotone and say things that attack President Trump while trying to sound reasonable, but not being reasonable, and constantly cutting off the one conservative on your panel and showing slight indignation whenever they make a good point for the... who could listen to this woman? It's horrible. She's got more people on her panel than she does audience members. AOC wasn't done saying dumb things. She also thought it was going to be a real slam on President Trump to talk about the Maduro raid in Venezuela and some basic geography that she also didn't know. SOT 13.
You know, we look at what happened in Venezuela, for example. It is not
Venezuela.
It is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator.
Okay, you're an idiot. The nation is entirely above the equator. It's not below. Just all you need is a map. That's it. Maybe they didn't have that on the bar where you were serving the cocktails. And don't get into it on the odds. There's nothing wrong with being a cocktail waitress. I know. I was one, actually, for quite some time. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But then when you run for Congress and actually are a sitting congresswoman, you need to study. then you actually do need to brush up on a few bare facts before you use them in your little talking point slams of the president. You humiliated yourself again. She's not ready for primetime. And honestly, I have had, okay, Sandy from Westchester, Maduro, Venezuela. You do not come from there. You have absolutely no background in this department. You came from a relatively Tony private school in Westchester, which is one of the nicest, richest districts in America. Maduro, Venezuela. Who do you think you're kidding, Sandy? It's absurd. This woman is an actress cosplaying the part of a Latina congresswoman. Okay, I've had it, and I'm sick of the press running cover for her at every turn, because I know you are asking yourself, but what does Joy Behar think about all of this? Here you go. SOT 18.
Check him out before you start attacking AOC, who, by the way, it sounded a little homina, but, you know, compared to him, it's like Mensa.
I can take homina from Congress people and stuff. You don't have yourself together, that's on you. Mm-hmm. Can't take it from the guy who says he's the leader of the free world.
We really want to know what you think, Whoopi. Why don't you work on rehabilitating yourself out of your mention in the Epstein files for seeking to use Jeffrey's private jet, and stop worrying about he whose name you will not speak? How does ABC allow her to get away with this shit? I mean, this is like ABC fancies itself as having one of the premier news organizations in the country, and they let this nonsense go on every day on The View with their fake conservatives there. The blonde one, she's also supposed to be conservative. What's her name? Sarah? She's like, if that's okay, she's as conservative as Nicole Wallace is over on MSNBC. So yeah, The View, as usual, is not doing well. International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There is a never-ending list of reasons gold has risen over 700% in the last 20 years. And a never-ending list of reasons smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals with Birch Gold Group. Gold can thrive during uncertainty, which is why it is a crucial part of a balanced strategy. It gives you peace of mind given all the events that could impact the U.S. economy. See if holding gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account is right for you. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Just text MK to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, consider letting Birch Gold help you diversify with gold, so you too can have peace of mind regardless of the uncertainty. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.